Okay, like I said, it's a big weekend for MMA. Saturday in particular, one of those rare nights when Bellator and the UFC are going head-to-head. But this is interesting because originally it was Bellator... Is it 154? I think it is 154. Let me just make sure here. It's hard to keep track of those Bellators. Bellator 154. Yes, it is. Originally, it was going up against the Fight Night, but then the UFC changed it to 198. That's a massive card. The Bellator card was hit a little bit after Josh Thompson got injured, and now Michael Chandler is opponentless. They did add Sergey Kharitonov, so it's a big card for them in San Jose. And the legend, Randy Couture, is doing some work for Bellator. It has been a while since we talked to the Natural. I think it's been like 2 years since we've had Randy Couture on the show. So what an honor this is, a privilege to welcome Randy Couture to the MMA Hour right now. Randy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yes. Where have you been? Have you been avoiding me?
Where haven't I been?
That is true.
Probably easier to count the places I haven't been. It's been an amazing year, but yeah, I'm doing well and happy to be up in San Jose coming up this week for the fights there. King Mo and Phil Davis getting after it. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. So if someone asks you, Randy, like, what's your relationship with Bellator? What's your involvement with that company? Like, what exactly are you to Bellator right now?
I have no official position with Bellator. I never have. Contrary to Dana's rhetoric when I signed a deal with Spike a few years back, I never had a deal with Bellator and never have. I am, like Royce Gracie and so many other guys, Kazuki Sakuraba, Bellator has hired me on a per event basis to help them as a brand ambassador. To make appearances, to go to the fan fest, to do that sort of thing. And that's what I'm doing in this capacity this coming weekend up in San Jose for the big show there on the 14th.
Though for this card, and correct me if I'm wrong, your involvement goes a little deeper, right? You're involved with something really cool, and I want you to explain it to the people. You're not just an ambassador for this particular card. You're actually sort of getting your hands dirty, right?
Well, for this particular card, it's a special card. Bellator and Spike TV have gotten together and basically created an organization called VOW, Veterans Operation Wellness. They did this last year in Houston. They created some spaces on their undercard for some active duty military and veterans to actually fight. Ones who train in MMA, they put them on the undercard and allow them to fight, and then give them not only give them a paycheck, but and an opportunity to fight on a nationally recognized card. But then they give them a bonus check on top of that as part of the VOW. Veterans Operation Wellness. So obviously with my foundation, Extreme Couture GI Foundation, and anything to do with veterans that supports them, I think that's another reason why they brought me in for this show. It's one of their VOW cards.
That is a very noble thing for you to do, a great cause. Are you going to be cornering any of these fighters on Saturday?
I won't be cornering any of the guys on Saturday. They have their teams and the guys that they're comfortable with and that they train with. I'm just there to kind of help promote this VOW program. And this year, the VOW card is sponsored by the Red, White, and Blue organization. They're a small veterans organization that has chapters across the country that basically get veterans out and do workouts together in the park or wherever. They create workouts for our vets. Last year's VOW card supported the boot campaign. So the Bellator and Spike's VOW program is highlighting some of the smaller veterans organizations and what they do for our veterans. And in that, they create an opportunity for some of our veterans to fight. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is great. I love that they do that. It's on the prelims, as you mentioned. Jorge Acosta, Staff Sergeant, California Army National Guard, and Army veteran J.D. Hardwick They'll be fighting on the undercard of Bellator 154 this Saturday in San Jose. We just saw some footage of you training with the guys. And you know, Scott Coker, Bellator CEO, we'll actually be talking to him in a few minutes. He's a crafty fellow, and he's been doing some interesting things with Bellator. Be honest with me here. When's the last time Coker offered you a fight? I know it has had to happen in his 2 years there. When's the last time he said, come fight for me?
Well, I think, obviously when Fedor threw his hat back in the ring and showed up at Rising on New Year's, my phone started ringing.
Yes.
And it was certainly a conversation that I had with Scott. Scott and I were actually doing promotions for their card in Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun when that all blew up. So every single interview that I did with Scott sitting next to me, they were asking me about whether I was going to come out of retirement and fight Fedor. And so he's kind of been there, firsthand, seen my response to all of that, and kind of knows my position on it and where I'm at. So, and Scott's one of those guys. He's a great guy, long time, lifetime martial artist, and one of those guys that I trust for sure in this sport. So I think he knows where I'm coming from, and that I'm not really interested in coming back out of retirement and fighting again at 52, almost 53 years old. Doesn't matter what kind of shape you're in. I haven't really been in fight shape for more, 5 years. So it just doesn't seem very realistic to me. It's not about money. It's not about that fight I missed or any of that stuff. I'm pretty comfortable with the legacy I set and having a great time acting now. And so I think we'll leave it at that. So
you can officially say, keep the offers away. I want nothing to do with this. I'm officially done. I will never fight again. Can you say that?
That's the way I feel about it right now, and I don't expect that's going to change.
Okay. Even when you see, Ken and Hoyce, there's nothing in you that says, I could do better than those guys? Those are the kind of fights that I think people want to see. They love those marquee names, those old matchups. There's a nostalgia there from the old days, and the fact that those guys are still willing to walk up in there and get in the cage is a tribute to them. So good on them, but I'm happy to be on the sidelines cheering and watching. How closely do you still work with the Extreme Couture gym in Las Vegas?
I'm at the gym every single day that I'm in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And obviously I'm in regular communication with Eric Nixick, my manager, and Robert and Dennis Davis, who run the amateur and pro team practices. And, Ryan has obviously stepped up and gotten a lot more involved at the gym and teaching classes and more involved in crunching the numbers and doing all that stuff. And I help Ryan directly with his camps, and once in a while go in and get on the mat with the guys that rub elbows with, obviously Misha, and we're very proud of Misha and what she's accomplished this year. And, Brian's got a big fight coming up real soon. We got a great group of people in there. So I'm happy to both be free to go do a movie when they come up and rely on those folks to continue to run the programs as well as they do. But at the same time, in there as often as I can be.
That's actually what I was getting at. It did seem, and correct me if you feel otherwise, for a minute, the gym had sort of lost its way. You were no longer fighting. Some other guys were leaving. And this year, I think in particular, Robert Follis has done a fantastic job, and Misha Tate becoming champion. All of a sudden, it feels like we've seen this resurrection of Extreme Couture out of Las Vegas. Did you see this coming? Did you think at one time the gym may have ran its course? And are you surprised by what's happened, especially in the last year or so?
Well, I never felt like the gym ran its course. I think there's a natural ebb and flow to any gym, and certainly a fighting population in the gym. Guys feel like they've run their course. They need to go change the scenery. We had Gray Maynard go away and train with Luke Rockholt and run his own gym for a while in Santa Barbara. Now he's back training with us. I retired, so that it wasn't me in there grinding out another camp, which attracted a lot of people. I think bringing Dennis Davis in and getting Dennis on board and putting him over, I think, with the pros and giving him the recognition and credibility he deserves. and now Robert Fall is coming on board, who is, Dennis's mentor and somebody I've worked with and trained with for years since the old Team Quest days. All have contributed, attracting people like Misha Tate and Brian Caraway and so many others that are in there grinding it out, banging it out, and getting ready for their fights at Extreme Couture. So I've always felt like it was a natural ebb and flow of a business, of a gym, especially with fighters. We're never concerned that the gym had run its course.
In the heyday, a few years ago, you were doing your thing, and right beside you was Gina Carano. We talk about Misha Tate, and we see Cyborg fighting this weekend. So I'm reminded of Gina, who, she sort of disappeared from MMA after the loss to Cyborg. Are you still in contact with her? And can you tell us the last time Scott offered her a fight? Because I'm surprised she hasn't fought for Bellator yet, to be honest.
Well, I know there was a lot of talk about Gina coming back, about Gina maybe fighting Ronda, about signing, and I'm sure that there's some truth that she was in discussions with Dana and the guys in Zuffa. I know that she did talk with Scott sometime last year or the year before that. I think Gina is very happily working on movies on a very regular basis and doing a fantastic job there. And I think, like me, realistically, after being out of it and in top fight shape for so long, does it make sense to try and come back and fight again unless you feel like you have something to accomplish? Gina's really the only one that can answer those questions. I think she could do whatever she wanted. She was as talented and as good a mixed martial artist as anybody I've worked with. So it's really kind of up to her. But I suspect that she's happy making movies and doing a great job there.
Your name came up a couple of weeks ago on this show when all the Conor McGregor stuff, him retiring, and now with this Mayweather thing blowing up and him going, and I'm reminded of your situation to a degree with Fedor, but that was real. I don't get the sense that this is real. Still, when you saw all this play out with Conor and the UFC and him not wanting to do the media stuff and them removing him from the card, did you have flashbacks at all? Do you see any similarities between your situation and his? Are you surprised by any of this?
Well, I certainly wasn't surprised to see that one of their stars, Conor McGregor, was butting heads with Dana White. That didn't surprise me in the least. But, I feel like there was more to it than that. I think it was a little deeper than he just didn't want to do media. I think, he was holding out and trying to squeeze them for more money, and they really didn't want to play the game. But that was just my take on it. It's really hard to say. I don't have a working relationship with Conor. He's been into the gym once, and I wasn't in town that day. I didn't really get to meet him or shake his hand or get a sense of him. All I've seen is the interviews, like everybody else, and then the fights. And been certainly impressed with the dynamic fighting style he has, and maybe a little less impressed with the interviews and some of the other stuff that's gone on. But he is really their number one biggest star and biggest draw right now. The only guy that seems to be able to keep out of his own way for the most part and do the job. And so I'm kind of surprised that they didn't let him have whatever he wanted and keep him on 200. That card is going to be a huge card, but at the same time, they don't like to give up things like that and set a precedence that they're going to have to deal with other fighters. And I mean, that in a sense is a lot like some of the things I fought with him over.
He sometimes drops hints about McGregor promotions, and people have talked about this. As you know, MMA is structured a lot more like pro wrestling than boxing, where someone could just start his own promotion like that. Do you foresee that time ever coming? Do you think a guy like Conor and a couple others can just start their own promotion and do their own thing like Mayweather does? Or do you think it'll always be structured MMA like Bellator, UFC, World Series, like that? You know what I mean?
Well, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I think right now, even if the rumors and the numbers that Conor is making, $4 or $5 million a fight, that's still nothing compared to the 30, 40 plus million that a guy like Mayweather is making in one boxing match. And it's going to take having pockets that deep to start your own promotion, to do your own thing that way. I think that allowed Golden Boy to be what they are, and they, attached a bunch of top guys to Golden Boy that made them successful. It's certainly within the realm of possibility, but I think we're a long ways away from making boxing money and being able to start our own promotions, our own production companies. So it's a stretch at this point.
Do you get a lot of guys come up to you in the gym and ask you when's the right time to walk away? Do you feel like that's a big problem? Like there's no retirement plan. There's no one, you could get pushed out, you can get cut, but you see this now as the sport continues to evolve. A lot of guys just don't know when to say when. I thought I know you walked away at one point, but you came back. But after the Machida fight, you seemed to know that enough was enough. Do you get those questions a lot from guys?
Well, people ask me that question a lot, and it's such a personal thing. Yeah, when I stepped out the first time, I was going through a horrible divorce and just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like I was getting the job done. I wasn't getting it done in practice, and I wasn't competing and feeling the way I normally felt. And obviously, when the dust settled from all that, I felt like I had more to give and more to do, and ended up fighting Tim coming out of retirement. But when I finally made the decision and my body was talking to me and saying, yeah, you might want to think about doing something else, it took me a while to come to the rational thought that it might be time to make it my last fight. I started kind of having some of those feelings getting ready for James Toney. And I thought, I don't want to go out on this fight as much as I want to go out and have a good showing against a world-class boxer. It didn't feel like a real MMA fight, and I wanted to go out with a real opponent, with a real shot, win, lose, or draw. And Lyoto Machida came up right after that, so I decided to make that my last fight. I didn't really tell anybody about it because I knew it would grow legs. It would become all about that instead of what it needed to be, which was about the fight. And, I decided win, lose, or draw, that was going to be my last one. I wanted to focus on all these other things that I had going on, like acting in the gym, and walked away. And once I came to terms with that decision, I felt pretty good about it, and I haven't really looked back.
In July, it will be a celebration of the sport with UFC 200. I'm assuming you won't be a part of it. Does that bother you? Like, do you hope at one point that you can clear the air with the guys in Vegas and be a part of the history of the sport and be recognized and things like that? Does that eat at you at all?
It's certainly an irritation, and I think that's the way it's meant to be. They're trying to get back at me and to be an irritation to me any way that they can be. I don't like that I pointed out some of the issues with their contracts and the way they treat fighters. And they've never liked that from day one, holding them to contracts and ancillary rights and all those sorts of things that me and my management fought with them over since the day they bought the company. And ultimately holding out to try and get the fight that I wanted in Fedor for 13 months and all that stuff. I think that's all stuff that they're not very forgiving about, and all the other stuff that I did to promote them, all the other money that I made them doesn't matter at the end of the day to them. So yeah, I would like to be included. It's a sport that I felt like I was involved in seeing grow and become what it's become. I think I get a ton of feedback from the fans at everything that I do, wishing that I was at Fan Fest and signing autographs and doing all that stuff for them. But it's not really my decision. It's on Zuffa, it's on the organization, and the issue is really theirs, not mine. I've done the best I could to represent myself and the sport in a positive way, and will continue to do that till I die. And the issues really are Dana White's and Zuffa's. I'm here, working with World Series and working with Bellator and trying to promote the sport, trying to do the right by the fighters that train at my gym, and the rest of it's really on them.
Let's end on this note. Big main event for Bellator on Saturday. To me, it's a fantastic weekend with the UFC and Bellator. I love this fight, King Mo versus Phil Davis, a division that you know a whole lot about. Fighters that are, to a degree, cut from the same cloth as you. They come from the wrestling background. Can you give us are you allowed to make a prediction? I'm curious, because I have a really hard time picking this one. Do you have a pick?
Yeah, well, I think that's why it's so interesting, because it is so hard to pick. Obviously, both guys have amazing wrestling pedigrees. King Mo went to Oklahoma State, where I went to school. Phil Davis, a Nittany Lion from Penn State, and an amazing wrestler himself. So then does that negate itself? Is it now boiled down to, okay, whose striking is better, whose submission is better? If we start breaking it down that way, we'll probably say that Mo's a little more dynamic striker, although that has gotten him into some trouble. And Phil was probably a better guy on the ground in submissions. We've seen more submissions and submission attempts from Phil Davis than we have from Mo. So it's really one of those fights. They're both amazing athletes. If they both show up, it is going to be a barn burner for sure.
Yeah.
And tough to pick. Tough to pick.
Are you sitting on the fence, Randy? You can't sit on the fence.
Well, I like both guys. I've been around both guys. They're both, gregarious, great personalities, good cats. There's my orange and black strings from Oklahoma State that are tugging on me a little bit.
Okay.
Phil Davis is a super guy as well. Trains a lot with my old ground coach Neil Melanson, who which makes me want to pull for him a little bit. So I'm glad I'm not connected to either one of them, and I can just sit on the outside and enjoy an amazing fight.
All right, fair enough. I don't just say it because you're on. It really is an honor every time I get to speak to you. It has been a while, so I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and in particular this weekend with the Val fights. What a great thing that is. I appreciate some time here today, Randy. Thank you. All the best, and we'll talk to you very soon.
You bet, Hero. Thanks, buddy.
All right, there he is, the natural, Randy Couture. We could talk to him for hours. Didn't get into a lot of the movie stuff that he's doing, but a very busy man, traveling all over the world, doing some fantastic stuff as of late. And again, a part of that Val Fights prelims of this weekend's Bellator MMA card, Bellator 154 at the SAP Center, the Shark Tank in San Jose. Main event is Phil Davis versus King Mo. As I mentioned last week on the MMA Beat, 198 is stacked. That card is as good as any of the UFC has put on, in my opinion, and it's perfect for that market because you have all the Brazilian heroes, a lot of the Curitiba's, Curitiba's finest products of Curitiba coming home, Shogun, Cyborg, Anderson Silva. It's just fantastic for that market. But that Bellator main event is great as well. And in fact, I will not be in Curitiba. This has nothing to do with, the stuff that, was going on as of late. It has nothing to do with that. This was actually decided long before I stopped working with Fox. In fact, it's my son's birthday party on Sunday, and I did not want to miss that, among many other things. So I will actually be at home watching my first UFC pay-per-view since UFC 171. So it's been a stretch of around 27 pay-per-views, if my math is correct, in a row. And I'm actually looking forward to just, watching both and seeing what it is. Sometimes when I'm at those pay-per-views and there's a Bellator World Series, I miss that. I have to watch it. I'm going to go back and forth like you guys with the remote control. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a fun night for MMA.